sound. This sound is a huge part of guitar and music, this blues cliche, these blues sounds. And this is the reason I want to talk about the 12-bar blues structure. So when we're playing guitar, when we're playing music, blues is again and again a word we hear again and again. It's a huge part of any style, whether it's jazz, blues, funk, rock and roll. Think about Elvis. Those sounds. It's a huge part of our musical journey as guitar players, and it's important to know what the structure is, how it feels, how it sounds, and how we can go about it. So again, I was kind of messing around and exploring this idea of a blues in A and trying to add little embellishments. Now, I played something that I never played before because I'm kind of improvising it. I'm hearing the structure and I'm imagining the sound and trying to find stuff that makes sense. And I think this is one of the most beautiful things about guitar and the blues, that once you're feeling a little bit more comfortable, you can kind of improvise and figure your way through this structure. Question: who is your favorite blues guitar player that is still alive? Please drop a comment. I want to check these people out. Thank you. What we're gonna do right now is understand the structure of the blues. We're talking about a 12-bar structure, 12-bar form, if you will. This is the song. And we have three lines of 4 bar each. The first line, if going kind of simple, is A7, the 1 chord, home, bass, tonic to the 4, D7, and then going back to A7, home. So the first line, these are the first 4 bars. Now it's important to see it and see the simplicity of it, because then when we add all these kind of cool chords, it would make sense and you will feel it. And you'll hear it because you understand how it works, how it functions in a truthful way. If you like guitar and music just as much as I do, I just released a 26-week guitar transformation with Rotem. It's me. And I think you'll really enjoy it. If you want to join the waiting list, click here or link in bio. I very much hope to see you there. So 1, 4, 1, great. Now this A7 is not just an A, and this is something very interesting in the blues. It's actually an A7, and you can also play the 7 here. And this is also function as what we call a secondary dominant. All we need to know is this is kind of like moving us in the direction of another place, and this A7, the 5-4, leading us to the 4, which is the 4. Interestingly enough, the 4 is also a dominant, which is a surprising thing that has a lot of this kind of pain, this kind of bluesiness, what we talk about in blues. Please click the like button and subscribe, would mean a lot. Thank you. And from the 4, we go back to the 1. So look at the second phrase of this structure. So we have 4, D7 for 2 bars, and then back home to 1, home bass, 1, the A7. The last phrase, we have an E7, which is a 5 to the 4, and back home to A1, and then sometimes again the 5, the dominant, leading us back to the beginning of the structure. And this is also the place, what we call the turnaround. We have all these little, these kind of sound that I think I played one of them earlier. If you want to get the most out of this lesson, there is a full transcription, note to note, with notation and tab on Patreon. Please check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it. To make sure we're feeling and hearing this, we'll play shell chords. Like that, D, the 4, A. Now it's never a waste of time to sing the bass and hear it. The more you hear it, the more you feel it, the better you are as a musician. La, second line, D, re, the 4, this is how it feels, and open E gives us the 9. La, the 1, Mi, the 5, D, the 4, La, Mi, the 5, back home. So again, the shell chords are just these simple shapes. You can see them here. So 1, A7, then D7, the 1, A7, again, it's a function of the secondary dominant leading to the 4, feeling, hearing it, 2 bars, back to the 1, A7, and then 5, the 4, and the 1, and then back to E7, or this E7 is fine. Now you can always use this open string on a guitar. This is really cool, and this is one of these sounds that makes it so lush and so beautiful. When you're playing an acoustic guitar, an electric guitar, you can get all these like just all these sounds that make it really, really lush. This is, of course, takes a little bit of time to understand, but even when you're playing a shell chord, just like, oh, okay, the E can kind of ring. Talk about that in a second, but just when you're working on simple things, make sure you're trying to listen and tune in and use the guitar as an instrument. So the open string, even just having the E open and vibrating, is beautiful. So we understand the structure, we're starting to feel it, but okay, so I'm kind of stuck. I'm playing shell chords, but what's the next step? So for me, one of the next steps, harmonically talking about the blues, is using a little bit more chords. So not doing the turnaround of 5, 4, but maybe using a 2-5 at the end. So it would sound like this. If I'm just using kind of like shell chord for a second, 1 to the 4, 1, and then to lead to the 4, instead of staying on the A7, I will play a D minor, sorry, an E minor, A7, leading to the D7. So basically creating a 2-5-1, sort of a tension and release on the 4 chord, and then staying on the 4 chord, 2 bars, back to the 1. Now from here I can kind of do a descending, which is really cool. I'm just chromatically going to this F sharp 7. Why the F sharp 7? Well, because I'm leading to this B minor, which is a 2. So I'm basically creating sort of like a tension. This chord is functioning as what we call, again, a secondary dominant, the 5 of the 2, if you will, in time. And then leading to the B minor, E7, back to 1, 6, 2, 5, which is kind of like a jazzy progression. But again, it doesn't have to exist only in jazz. You hear it in neo soul, lo-fi. A lot of things or a lot of styles would use these chord progression, and more than the chords themselves, we want to understand the functionality. What is happening here is we still keep this structure of these 3 lines, a 12-bar blues, but we're starting to sub-chord. The reason we can change these chords is because we understand the meaning of the harmonic sentence. We look at it as 4 last bars of the blues, and we, instead of this 5-4 turnaround, sort of like leading back to home base, we're saying, okay, we just need to lead back to A, and I don't have to use the 5-4. I can use a 2-5-1, which is also a nice way to get to a harmonic place. So that's exactly what I'm doing. So check it out in time for a second. Simple. 2, 5, 4, 1, 2, 5. All I'm doing here to give it a little bit of spice is really using the shell chords and adding these 2 5s. So basically it would sound like this. A7, 2, 5, 1, right? So I'm using a little bit of jazz chords to articulate this tension and release it on the 4. And again, you can think about it as jazz, you can think about it as music. It's just understanding the blues. It's not better or worse than, you know, playing. It's just another way to express the harmonic progression. And what's beautiful in it is that we understand just another option to hear that, you know, turnaround. Hearing a 2-5 or hearing these colorful chords in order to create tension and release. Let's take it from the top again and hear what we have so far. A7 to the 4, some open strings, now a 2-5, back to the 4. I'm adding the sharp 4 diminish, back to the 1. Now a 2-5. B minor 7 to this E7. Cool. Play it one more time, and I want you to really try and feel the bass motion. Listen to this. 1, 4, D7 to the 1. 2, 5 to the 4, sharp 4 diminish, 1, chromatic, descending 5 of 2, 2, 5, 1. Cool. So what I'm trying to show here is that with very little effort in a way, right, just finding a few shapes, we can start getting a lot of music. I want to go back for a second to that cool turnaround at the end, that E7 to the D7. One of the things that we do is using these chords, even at simple 1 and 3, but basically adding the 13 as a melody. So check this out really closely. What I'm doing here on the turnaround, if I'm choosing to use the OG 5 to the 4, I can take this shape 1 and 3 and do again really slowly. What's interesting in this motion here is understanding that we have a melody that is repeating, right, something sequential, and then resolution. But not only a melody it is, but also it's the 13. There are some tensions here, right? So it's the 1 or the 5 on top, the 13 to the 7, to the flat 7. And maybe a little E7 sharp 9. Cool, let's do it one more time from the beginning, and I'll sub the two options of playing this B minor 7 to this E7 9, really kind of jazzy and lush, versus this kind of sound which is more bluesy. They're both great. I love both of them equally, if you will. It's just depending on the situation and what I'm imagining. This time when I'm playing the chords, I'll try to add this E open string vibrating a little bit and using fingerstyle. Let's try. Just exploring the ideas, and I'm trying to limit myself to using specific shapes, but once we find and get a little bit more free, like using, for example, these kind of sounds, I can understand how I can move even more between these chords. And what's interesting and beautiful about it is like I'm taking a structure, a 12-bar form that a lot of us know, and I'm little by little embellishing it. I'm little by little trying to understand what makes it tick. I'm trying to hear and feel and tag the information in a clear and honest way. And if I'm not understanding something, I'll stop and I'll try and sing it. I'll try to understand it. Instead of just saying like, okay, there is one way to play it, right? A lot of times people just kind of play the same thing again and again, and it's totally fine. But I think since we want to get better at guitar, since we want to learn more, it's helpful and important for us to understand what is happening, how it works, how it sounds, and ask ourselves questions, right? So if I don't know something and I don't understand this descending chromatic thing, it's okay, let's understand what it is. If I'm saying words like, you know, secondary dominant, and it's not clear to you, that's totally fine. Just try to understand little by little and try to tag the information as we go. Thank you so much for listening and checking it out. I'll see you very soon. Peace out.